All right, Bothell City Council is back from break. We have agenda item AB 18-071. It's the update on the downtown citywide-owned downtown city-owned properties, and the city manager is going to provide a staff presentation. Or do you think we should wait? All right, we're going to go back into recess until 8:15, which is in 2 minutes. We're back at recess. All right, Bothell City Council is back from break. We're going to move into AB 18-071, which is the update of on the downtown city-owned properties, and Jennifer Phillips is going to provide a presentation.
So in your agenda bill, there was a staff report that was provided. So I'm just going to highlight some information from that agenda bill and staff report with regards to the four downtown properties that the city currently owns. So as the downtown redevelopment was occurring, there was a strategy that the city would be a master developer, and it had purchased numerous parcels in the downtown. And by the end of 2015-16, a little bit into 17, all of the parcels had been sold. 4 of those parcels have now fallen out of escrow for a variety of reasons. And so I was asked by the council to prepare a presentation sort of incorporating all of those parcels, the contamination status updates on that, so it would be all in one document so there was a better understanding. These are the contamination work that's being done by the Public Works Department is very complicated. I think by reading through this, I think you got a sense of the amount of work, the amount of reporting, the time, and certainly the monies that have been spent on working on the contamination on these parcels. So we're talking about 4. So I'm going to start with Block A, and I provided a map attached to your staff report. Block A is the old Bothell Bike and Ski Shop, which is on the whichever side of 522 that is. I'll never get my directions right. South side of 522. It's just under an acre. It's 38,500 square feet. Oh, there it is on the south side of the 522. It is zoned 522 corridor. At the time of the sale in 2015, it sold for $1,075,000 and had a $200,000 potential holdback because of the difficulty of building on the lot and the potential need for pilings. That was part of what was negotiated as the purchase and sale agreement. that parcel is not contaminated, it's clean. It is a difficult parcel in that it only has a right in, right out, and there is some critical area there, and so there are some development challenges to it. But it is a parcel that could be sold for or used for certain types of development. Block D, that sits off of the 522, 527 intersection. That sold back in 2015 to Regency Centers. That property has fallen out of escrow. It's just slightly over 2 acres, 2.24 acres, 9,700, a little over 97,000 square feet, and it's zoned downtown corridor. The price at the time was just about $2.7 million. That parcel is contaminated by the Bothell Service Center. We've recently obtained a consent decree for that, and cleanup work has begun. There's also some contamination on that parcel from what we call the Wexler site, or the Wexler parcel, and staff is working with the Department of Ecology to address that contamination on the parcel as well. Block E, F, and G, also on the corner of 522 and 527. So this was sold to TFR Equities Bothell back in 2016. That also fell out of escrow. It's just a little over an acre, 48,000 square feet. It's zoned downtown corridor, downtown neighborhood. At the time of the sale, it was sold for a little over $1.4 million. That has a contamination by the Ultra Custom Care cleaner site, and that work is currently underway. We have agreed upon orders, and we're working towards a consent decree on that parcel. That parcel is also impacted by the Riverside contamination site, and we're working with the Department of Ecology on that. And then Block D and E, F, and G are impacted by contamination from the Paint, Hertz, and Bothell Landing contamination sites. And we continue to work with the Department of Ecology on the contamination on those sites as well. The remaining, the final fourth parcel is Block P South. So that was sold to Main Street Properties in March 2016. Council elected not to extend the purchase and sale agreement, and so that purchase and sale agreement expired. It's not quite, it's a little over 1.5 acres, 72,000 square feet. It's zoned downtown neighborhood, and at the time it was sold for a little over $2.6 million. That does have some contamination. Staff did a voluntary cleanup on that parcel. Quite a bit of work and monies were spent in that. There is some contamination that has been identified. We're working with our current environmental consultant to identify a strategy to try to clean that small bit of contamination up. And so under the voluntary program, we're trying to make progress on cleaning that block up. So at this time, those 4 parcels are available, and I sort of laid out some strategies. Council had indicated in a goal-setting session in interest in moving forward on Block D, but you also expressed interest in having a robust community process to make sure that the community had a chance to re-engage with these parcels that have now become available. And so really what I'm looking for is direction from the council on how you'd like to pursue with these 4 parcels, and if hiring a broker to sell Lot D is appealing and to wait on the other 3 parcels. There was also discussion at the goal setting about connecting Lot A with a master plan with the Park at Bothell Landing, Lot A, the former Wayne Golf Course, and Blythe, and doing a master plan for sort of those 4 parcels. That would also be an option, although there's no funding available at this time for that project, but that's certainly an option. We could also do a formal RFP process where we would go out and, with the council's input, create requests for proposals, request proposals from developers. They would submit proposals with drawings. Those would come back to the council for your review, consideration, and possible direction for staff to select one of those developers or multiple ones for each of the parcels and negotiate purchase and sale and development agreements. So you have a couple of choices, and so we thought this would be a good touch base to see where what you're feeling about the parcels, if you have some direction for me to how you'd like to move forward on either holding those parcels or selling some or all, or what your thoughts are.
Thank you. Who would like to go first? Deputy Mayor?
Excuse me, can you remind me what the relative timelines are for the various options for selling Lot D?
So I put in the staff report, I think with an aggressive schedule for Lot D, Block D, I started working on the RFP to hire a broker. That could go fairly quickly. The contract needs to come to council for approval, get the property on the market, and negotiate a purchase and sale and a development agreement. I think we could do that by the end of the year. Might be a little aggressive and optimistic, but I think we've already got a purchase and sale and a development agreement that the broker could show potential buyers. That's what council had interest in before. That includes the specialty grocer. And I think if we have those parameters to work off of, then interested developers could sort of already understand sort of what we're looking for, and negotiations could move off of that as a starting point. So I think Block D maybe by the end of the year. And then if you wanted to do an RFP, that's a much longer process, especially depending on what your desire is with regards to the public part of it. Do you want input from the public prior to the RFPs going out? Would you like the public to be involved in some sort of discussion about what they'd like to see on those parcels, incorporating that in, designing the RFP, putting the RFP out on the street? Needs to be out there for a good, gosh, at least 8 to 10 weeks for developers to look at it and design projects, to submit their proposals. Then there's a review of those proposals. Those would need to come before council. So we're looking well into 2019 for the council to make a decision. And then you'd have to select those developers, and then we'd have to negotiate the purchase and sale and development agreements.
And was there like a middle ground where, from what I remember of the discussion in the budget retreat, there was a middle ground where we wouldn't have drawings to review, but we would have a little more information than just an aggressive. Am I remembering incorrectly?
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about one or all, so you could.
This is just for Lot D.
Oh, just for Lot D?
Yeah.
That's about as aggressive as I can get to close Lot D by the end of this calendar year. That's a minimal process with really no. Yes, we could ask for, I guess, basic drawings or sort of basic concepts as part of the discussion. So if we put it on the market, developers are interested, we could then look at put some sketches or some potential ideas of what their project might look like prior to entering negotiations. So yes.
And if we wanted to incorporate, I don't know how the rest of council feels, but if we wanted to incorporate some sort of affordable housing component, would that complicate the process more and change that timing? I mean, I don't know if it would, I don't know if we can incorporate in the purchase and sale agreement that sort of requirement, or if we have to have a spot zone or some, I guess I'm not sure what that looks like process-wise.
I think that we can negotiate it into a development agreement without having affordable housing codes. We can do that.
Yes, in this case, because we control the property, that
Right.
would be negotiated as part of the sale, the purchase and sale agreement and the sale price.
So we could make that part of the, like, lower the cost or something to incorporate that. Do you want just questions now or comments and questions? Last time.
Let's just do comments and questions
Okay.
together. And
Okay. I am interested in Lot A as part of the master plan. I'm not in a rush with the other properties as much. I think I've stated the case before. I feel like Lot D is pretty critical for a gateway to our downtown, and there are several financial reasons why I think it would be to our benefit to sell it. I think it could help finance. First of all, we could get affordable housing. We can get the specialty grocer I know everybody wants. And I do worry about the economy. And we have things that could finance, like the Canyon Park Master Plan and perhaps the master planning for Wayne and Blythe and Lot A and the landing. So for those reasons, RFP sounds wonderful, but I know everything takes longer than we think it does. So when you say well into 2019, I feel like it's really 2020, and that concerns me a little bit. So I guess if we could find a way to be aggressive and yet have a little more say, that would be my preference.
Anybody else have questions and comments for the city manager? Over here. Yep. Councilmember Olson?
Yep. So I agree. Block D, I think this is a valuable piece of property, and while the economy is strong, the other 3 parcels, not as much of a urgency. I think kind of that middle ground, the middle choice, where we do have a little bit of direction and say to who we're trying to sell it to and what they're trying to develop, is what I'm looking for in there as well. So, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Councilmember McAuliffe?
Yes, I think for all good reasons, we should move forward with Block D. I do agree that the timing is right for us to sell this property. It will also help finance some other things that we need. Block A as well, I think should move forward. So those 2 would make a big difference, I think, for us to generate the money we need for the rest of the properties, to do the cleanup, to get them ready. That would be a good move.
Councilmember Agnew?
I agree with my council members that Lot D is probably the one that we need to push. I also think that we should look into Lot A as maybe the lot that we want to talk about affordable housing at. We can build on it. Somebody can build on it now. It's close to all the metro lines. You know, it has a lot of good features that we need to take advantage of.
Councilmember Zorns?
I guess my question is, I appreciate the comment about affordable housing, but if it's purely affordable housing, if I understand from Arthur correctly, we have to have a public-private partnership in it if we're talking about to make that happen? So that gives me pause if it's purely affordable housing. But I'm not, you're probably not arguing that. I do look at Lot A and go, could we do, and I need somebody who knows this area of town a little bit better than I do. I do look at Bothell Landing, and as it stretches up into Wayne, that we might have a Jean Coulon of the slough, a Jean Coulon Park of the slough. I don't know if that has been a financial sinkhole for the city of Renton, but we have a potential for making that a really big public gathering park area for this part of the planet. So I would kind of like to hold back on divesting ourselves of A immediately, but I am definitely on the same page of let's see what we can do with D.
Councilmember McNeil?
Thank you. Definitely on board with doing something with Lot D and moving forward with that. I kind of echo what Councilmember Agnew said about Lot A, and maybe stop and pause for a second. That might be a really cool opportunity for some public-private partnerships, possibly with some youth facilities, some affordable housing, many different things. So I'd like to look at that. I want to go back to all the properties in general. I think we need to overall be looking at them. I think I think that we do need to have a public engagement process because I think we'll get more buy-in and we might even hear more ideas and things that we could do. So, but again, Lot D, I think for me would be the most critical one. And then looking at the process moving forward, how we can engage with the community.
I got to be the closer on this one. Well, I think you have plenty of votes for Block D, so I guess I don't really need to talk too much about that, but I think what I'm hearing that they want us to do, and correct me if I'm wrong, Council, but they want you to move forward with the broker process and not the RFP process. I was here when we sold all these properties, and they've all came back, and then they all came back because they're contaminated. And so I personally want to make sure they're cleaned up before we try to put them back out, well, except for Block A. No, it's not contaminated. But I'd like them to be as locked down as possible and as cleaned up as possible so we get the maximum amount of profit from selling them, and then they don't come back. That's the important part. The other thing too, and I don't know if we really want to go another round to talk about this, but but having a public process is great. I think what I thought we were talking about is making sure it's a transparent process, because before what happened was of a concern to the community about how specific developers were selected and what was selected and how it was kind of not done in the public eye. And I think we can do that here without making it a huge, workshop and public process where everybody comes in. I think as long as they have the opportunity to look at the packet just like we do, and they come to the council meeting, be able to give us feedback and input, and we do it up here instead of a subcommittee of us doing things and then just bringing, well, basically nothing to the full council and just voting on it. I think that if we do that in a transparent way, I guess I'm not real concerned about making sure there's this huge open house workshops and, collecting, $60,000 public engagement process. I think our normal process is in making sure it's very transparent, it's very clear that these are the proposals that we've got. I know there are some concerns, and I would like to hear about those if they do arise, of developers have concern about their concept being shared. So if that's the case, I guess we got to revisit that. But that's the process and the public engagement that I was kind of envisioning. It wasn't like a whole separate thing. It was our process, but it was in front of the community. So those are my two things: make sure that things are cleaned up, they don't come back. Well, I guess there's three things. And the third one is that we do a transparent process in front of the public, that when we are selecting who is going to be the final owner of the property. All right, everybody's nodding their heads. They like it. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our agenda. Did you have anything you want to talk about in executive session? We're good. Okay, motion. Oh, Councilmember McAuliffe.
Well, I think did we settle on Lot A? Did we decide on Lot A or not?
They're the head counters over
need to
there.
be clear.
Where are we at?
What I heard is sell Lot D and then work on the others. So I didn't hear a clear direction to do something with Lot A. So that would be an opportunity to look at some sort of RFP or come back to the council with sort of ideas on what criteria you would like for that lot, and then put it up for sale through an RFP process. But if there's a sense of urgency, then, but I didn't hear that.
I don't think we had that. So we could go through another round. I'm going to go first on this one and say, I want you to do what you can handle. We intentionally said don't move forward on the properties because your workload was basically two people's workload in a year's time. And I don't think when you're doing too much, you're going to make too many mistakes. And so I don't want to do any of that stuff. No offense to you, just in general, somebody doing two jobs, they're gonna run into some problems. So I'd like to, if we were throwing Lot D back onto your work plan and you're accepting it very kindly to, you're not pushing back, and that's all I think you can handle, from what I understand from the communications that we've had. So I'm not real big in a big hurry to move forward with Lot A or any of the other lots until we've got the bandwidth and they're clean and they're not going to come back. So that's my 10 cents. Deputy Mayor?
I agree. I was going to bring that up. I know that pushing D on you was not in your original work plan. Lot A, I really think that we can take some time. We've talked about in the past maybe having the skate park there, having a public-private partnership, and also maybe creating this, like I said, the bracelet with the charms. I think Wayne is a charm, Blythe, Lot A, and Bothell Landing, and I would like to see a master plan process where we're developing them simultaneously so that they work together. So that's my preference.
Councilmember Olson?
You guys already said it.
You're
I agree with you too.
dittoed. All right. Count that as a head count. Zorn? Councilmember Zorn, okay? Yeah, we're good to go. You got it. All right. So we're clear now? You got everything needed? Good. Thank you, Councilmember McAuliffe. That was helpful. Is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by Councilmember McNeil.
Second.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, go ahead, place your vote. Passes with Councilmember Agnew in the negative. We're adjourned.